Hello. In this video, I'll explain how we do output validation for the JSON structured output that we get from the visual LLM. And this validation is done based on query schema, which is provided through the Sparrow query to fetch data from the document. So let's see the example first. So this is the example where we execute Sparrow. We pass JSON schema, which describes a list with instrument name and valuation fields to be fetched. Instrument name is of a string type and valuation is integer. And then this data will be fetched from this bonds table file, and bonds table file you can see on Sparrow README. This example is included there if you're interested. It's basically a table with a set of columns, and we, in this case, we fetch only subset, actually two columns, instrument name and valuation. In this request was sent, in this case, to a private GPU backend that runs on Hugging Face. And if you would like to run the same, you could install from the Sparrow parse infra folder. You can install this backend on your own Hugging Face environment. In this case, this is the private GPU, and in order to run it, you would need to create your own GPU environment on Hugging Face. So we got response quite fast, 25 seconds. We see there was a step of validating result, and the output was that output is valid according to the schema. So validation passed successfully. And we can see this visually as well. We have a list with instrument name of type string, and valuation of type integer. And here we augment the JSON output, which was returned by visual LLM with additional property valid. In case if there is no validation errors, we specify value true. If there would be some validation error, then this validation text about the error would be included as the value for the valid property. This helps to the system which calls Sparrow API to understand if the request was successful or not. If it was not successful, maybe we need to change the query, adjust it to make sure that visual LLM is able to fetch data as we would expect. Okay, now let's look into the code. So in this case, we pass a file which includes single page, single image of the table. We get LLM output from the step above, where the call to the visual LLM was executed. We obtain the text, the output, and this option in Sparrow either you fetch all the data, then no validation step is needed, because we rely then on visual LLM, whatever data is being returned. Other option, when we pass JSON schema, then we would like to validate the output according to that JSON schema from the query. And this is where we pass the schema, we pass the output, and validation happens in this function. So if you go to the function, we can see that validator, Sparrow Validator class instance was constructed, and we pass query schema here. We get back the validator instance. Then on top of validator instance, we call method validate JSON schema, validate JSON against the schema, and where we pass the output and we pass generated schema. And we do get validation result. In case if validation result value is not empty, then something wrong happened, some validation error was detected, and we return this validation result. Else, if none was returned, then we just print out that everything is fine and return none. This means no validation errors. And if you look above, in the place where we started, we can see that we call add validation message. We augment LLM output in this step with either value true if validation result is none. This is what we see here in this example. Else, if it's not empty, we add entire validation result message and assign it to this valid field, so that the API caller would understand that something wrong happened. Okay, and then we return this output back to the caller. So if we go back to validate result method, we can see validator instances being created here. And we call validate JSON against schema method. All this is implemented under Sparrow Validator script. And if we open it, the package here, we can see this is the Sparrow parse and this is the Sparrow Validator. And when instance of the validator is created, we pass JSON schema we get from the query, and we call method generate schema from example. So this we're using schema builder from JSON, and basically with the help of that library we can automate validation, and this allows to compare the output with the original query schema and to understand automatically if the output corresponds to the schema, or there are some extra fields being, for example, included, or maybe not all fields were included in the output, or maybe type of some field is not the one that we asked for. Instead of integer, it comes as float or string and so on. So this kind of validation would happen. Yeah, and finally, validate JSON against schema method, the one which is called here from the validator. It loads JSON string, and JSON string is the LLM output. And then we call validate method from a library called JSON schema, and we pass here instance of the JSON data, the output of the LLM, and we pass the schema itself. And schema is the one that is generated in method here, in the method above. And then if no exception happens, we return none. This means all the validation is successful. If exception happens, we return the message about this validation error. So this is basically how it works. And it's very important because LLM may, based on document complexity, or if the query is not explicit enough, LLM may produce incorrect result. And with this validation step, when you validate LLM output, we can catch at least large part of the problem when output may be incorrect, and instead of sending incorrect output back to the caller, we validate it inside Sparrow and return information to the caller through the valid property. So thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.